going on, guys? My name is Tommy. Welcome back to the channel, and welcome back to another episode of the Forgotten Race Review today. At the request of Nervous the Wayfinder, we're cracking open our copy of Inner Sea Races. We're going to talk about the Catfolk. If you guys have any requests, as always, throw them down there in yonder description. And if you're liking what you're seeing, remember, like a little cat dinging at the bell with this little cat paws, you gotta hit that like button and ding that subscribe button. But make sure you don't ding it too much, make sure it's there, so you can see more sweet content. Also, this episode of the Forgotten Race Review was brought to you in part by Jesse Brooks. Thanks for all your help and support, my friend. Now, let's dive in. Okay, so somebody's gonna have to correct me in the comments on this one if I'm incorrect, but I can't think of anywhere in mythology, other than like Bast for the Egyptians, where the anthropomorphic cat humanoid exists. Really, I think the Catfolk is just a really popular fantasy and sci-fi trope. Everything from the Thundercats to the Khajiit, who are not guilty of this crime, and all the way through the spectrum, they're extremely popular. Again, if I'm wrong, if I'm missing something somewhere about how the Greeks had some story about a dude with a cat head, let me know all about it. I think today we're just gonna straight up hit Pathfinder's Catfolk, or as they call themselves, the Amarun. I may be saying that incorrectly, that's the pronunciation I am going with, and henceforth that's what we're gonna call them because that is in fact the race's true name, at least so far as Pathfinder is concerned. The Amarun are wanderers, explorers, and extroverts, which of course makes them highly curious and social, not unlike, a house cat. They travel the world alone or in tribes, uncovering secrets and blazing trails and supplementing their hunting and gathering by selling maps, trading goods, and protecting the lands they tread. The Amarun treasure personal growth and eccentricity just as much as travel, believing every person is the sum of their experiences. The Amarun of Pathfinder love to trade tales. To other humanoids, they can sometimes seem pushy, hoping to hear new secrets quickly and share their own just as fast. Conversations among Amarun change down half a dozen different tangents at once, with everyone speaking and listening simultaneously. Of course, their life on the road is difficult, so they share what they have freely and expect that same generosity in return. After all, the group is in fact stronger for every individual within it. Amarun mythology claims that they were once great cats that prowled the corners of the world when Galarian was still warm from creation. Over time, as the great cats hunted the weakest of the pests that gnawed at the edges of reality, their foes, that when uncaught became too powerful. The spirits of creation, which had shaped Galarian and didn't wish to see their work undone, poured shards of themselves into these great hunters. Man, that's the opinion of the house cat, as someone who literally just had to put his house cat in another room whilst recording this so he wouldn't meow all over the place, as I'm sure you guys have heard a million times, thus giving them hands and families and a language to better guard the world. And thus the Amarun continue to wander, patrolling and attempting to heal the ragged edges of creation, forever seeking to complete the godly portions of their souls. The Amarun is a racial name that, by and large, the Catfolk keep to themselves, and they accept that very term, though again, that's the last time I'm going to use it, with grace and a hint of amusement. And if that's not the most adorable fairy tale you've ever heard in your whole life, giant monster house cats defending the world from predators and almost going extinct over it, so the gods literally created a race, I don't know what is. So down to their stats, a catfolk, much like a human, comes of age at 15 years old. Males run the gamut from 5 foot to 6'2", weighing anywhere from 130 to 200 pounds. Females tending to come in just a little smaller, from 4'7" to 5'11", and 95 to 165 pounds respectively. The maximum age for a catfolk is 70 plus 2d20 years, so literally 100%. What we're looking at is a human with cat ears and some different ability scores. Let's talk about those. So much like everything in Pathfinder 1st edition, seriously, the numbers are staggering. I haven't stopped to count it, but the catfolk receive a +2 to the 2 best ability scores in 1st edition, Dexterity and Charisma, but a -2 to the only one you really don't want a -2 in, that's Wisdom. They are humanoids with the catfolk subtype, They are medium creatures with a base speed of 30 feet. These guys have low light vision and a +2 racial bonus on perception, stealth, and survival checks. Also, they get a +10 racial bonus to their speed when they use the charge, run, or withdraw action, and once a day, when a catfolk makes a reflex save, they can roll twice and take the higher, which is in fact incredibly powerful, especially if you're playing something like, I don't know, a catfolk barbarian or fighter or something that might not have that 18 dex starting out. Now, I've never played a catfolk, but they come up a lot in my games, though never, at least so far, in the long term. I've GM'd for 2 catfolk over the course of my career, one in a one-shot over at Lordly Caliber, the Collisionist Order. The other was Tim's catfolk sorcerer Godric, who ended up taking 3rd place in Hail the Gorilla King. Really, he only died because the kineticist wasn't attacking the Drow Noble first. But that's a spoiler, and I shouldn't say that. But if I were to GM for a catfolk on Galarian in a long-term kind of thing, there's a lot of deep mythology that people don't see a lot here that you can play with and have a lot of fun with. I know I've read this in some book somewhere. I tried Googling it, nothing's coming up. I cannot for the life of me grab onto this thing. But imagine, if you will, all the house cats in the city getting out of the house at night and sneaking off together to form some kind of secret society bent on, protecting the world from imminent demise. That's so cool. And I don't just say that because I'm a cat person. Why do I think that's cool? Because a lot of times the other races seem to look down their nose at the poor little catfolk. Maybe not necessarily on Galarian, but what comes to my mind just right away, right off the top, is the Khajiit in Skyrim. And I haven't really played that much of ESO. Looks like we're going to High Rock at some point for Elder Scrolls 6, but when we go to Elsewhere, I'm super stoked because I really like the Khajiit, and in Skyrim, they've got that, from what we see, that traveling culture. Yes, you're seeing merchants traveling Skyrim, but they don't just travel in, like, dude and couple guards. It's basically a family unit, and if you stop and talk to them, they're more than happy to tell you tales, and maybe sell you drugs. But different story, different culture. How do the Nords treat them? In a word, not the best. Anything from lack of trust and keeping them out of the cities, unless they happen to be Dragonborn, or, screaming that they'd make a fine rug before they kill them very dead. Put these 2 tropes together, and I think you have a really interesting concept for an entire world. Maybe the race doesn't necessarily have to be the catfolk, but the race that's downtrodden, the race that people don't like as much, the race that just kind of is at the bottom of the heel of society, that has long-standing traditions of being those who stood at the beginning of time, protecting the world from danger. Characters that come from warrior societies are often my favorite, and if I'm playing a catfolk, to be honest with you, that's what I'm doing. Anything from a catfolk barbarian or blood rager. There actually is, in fact, a blood rager archetype released in Blood of the Beast known as the Prowler at World's End, which literally is this. Perhaps even something like a monk, the Scaled Fist comes to mind with that Dex Cha, or something like a synthesist literally calling on the spirit of his stronger cat ancestors to fight, which is relevant because without alternate race traits, there's no natural attacks here. Well, what do you guys think? Is this a race you've played in your games? Is this a race you've GM'd for? And is this a race we want to see appear in Pathfinder 2nd Edition, or the way things have been going, maybe even in the playtest itself? Let me know. Throw it in the comments. As always, I love talking to you guys. We'll keep that conversation going. But that's all we have for today. Thank you guys so much for hanging out. And hey, remember, like and subscribe for more super cool content, because the next episode of the Forgotten Race Review is another homebrew. It's been requested that I brew up the Yithian. Yeah, going back to spooky Eldritch Horror Town once again next Monday.